Make up your mind.
You're good to go.
Sylvia's still here.
Thank you. Okay, Bob Bender,
Here.
Kelly Buford,
Present.
Lee Chong,
Here.
Margaret Della.
She's here.
Here.
Oh, good. Okay. Nick Fazio. Nick? I'll circle back. David Gilman,
Present.
Rosemary Ginty,
Here.
Julia Gomez. I'll circle back. Ed Green,
Present.
Scott Crumpinger,
Present.
Chuck Murdler. He's in the Bahamas. I believe he will be coming on, hopefully.
Hopefully.
Yes. Let me just make a note of those. Omar Murray.
Yeah.
Okay. Me here. Camelia,
Present.
Deb,
Present.
Sergio. Okay, I see you waving. Wait a minute, you look like you're in summer clothes.
I am. I'm traveling back from Costa Rica. And, I'm between
Okay.
flights.
You can't fool me. Marty Wolpoff.
Here.
Okay, the one I wanted to circle back with was Nick. Okay, so. Okey doke, roll call is here, quorum is present. Bob chaired the last meeting. Next is approval of the executive committee minutes from March 1st, 2023. Bob, want to go ahead?
Muted. Sorry, I didn't realize I muted myself. Okay. Before we approve the minutes, some of you will remember that Lisa Daub spoke at the last exec meeting about her proposal for reconfiguring some of the committees. And I should have seen this coming, but because Lisa was secretary of this board for a number of years, after she saw the minutes that I wrote, she wasn't satisfied with the way in which I summarized what she was doing. So as a result, she's offered a friendly amendment, which I have accepted. So bear with me while I tell you what it said before and what it will say now. So previously, the minutes said, Lisa Dow proposed that the community board reconsider the structure of the standing committees. She offered a resolution intended only as a starting point for this discussion and not for a vote. She pointed out that some committees have few members and sometimes experience problems with establishing a quorum for meetings and carrying out their missions. That will be replaced by Lisa Dow proposed that the community board establish a community engagement committee that includes the functions of a few current committees and that may enhance outreach and participation. She also recommended renaming a committee. So that was the major change, and she had one addition where Rosemary brought up the fact that the previous website included some older information that she would like to see included on the current website. The next sentence said, Lisa Daub said that there should be an archive button on the website for such older information. Lisa wants to add to that, and that the board has a responsibility to retain documents that can be digitized according to the city's policy. So as I said, that was offered as a friendly amendment. I accepted it. So those are the changes to the executive committee minutes from last month.
Are there any other comments? Then is there a motion to approve the minutes as amended?
Motion.
So moved. Second.
Okay, is there anyone opposed to approving the minutes? See no hands. Anyone abstaining? I see no hands. The minutes are unanimously approved, and thank you, Bob, for doing that.
And thank you, Lisa.
Okay, we'll move on to Chair's report. Next week, as you know, we will be holding elections for secretary and the nominating committee. I want to especially thank Rob Jaklowski for his service as secretary. He has an additional position within the college that prevents him from attending exec. There's a conflict, and even at times full board. It's not a permanent thing, but for the rest of the year, it certainly affects his position as secretary. So I want to thank him for the service that he did, and we'll be holding an election next week. Lisa Daub, as you already know, Myra Joyce and Steve Vasquez have not reapplied for reappointment to the board. They were marvelous board members, and I know we all thank them for their service. Want to remind board members, committees to please send in your nominations for the Irving Latimer Community Service Award and the Betty Campbell Most Valuable Merchant Award. We are receiving nominations, but it's always good to, to remind everybody. I inquired with the Office of Technology and Innovation, formerly DO-IT, now they're OTI, regarding material from 2004, 2005, 2006 that is not on our current website. Because when we were doing this changeover from the old website to the new website, I know that we asked for everything to be transferred over. Interestingly enough, they responded to my letter that they transferred everything that they had. And perhaps if something is not on the new website, maybe it was not uploaded, because we're particularly interested in agendas and minutes. So I don't understand. We're still working that explanation out. However, everything that we have from those years is located and kept in our office server, which is also called the public drive. It's all there. And what they said, they offered to send us a list of approved tech consultants who could upload all the documents that are in our server. And that's what they suggest we do. I think our next step is to check out that information, and I'll come back to you with whatever information we have regarding approximate costs and things like that. So that's that, but we do have everything, hopefully. Okay. Under item 7, we will be discussing the Tishman project then, so I'll hold off. I'll leave that, and Bob will be leading that discussion. But I'd like to give you an update on 6661 Broadway, the homeless shelter, because a lot has happened and a lot we have learned in the past month, 3 weeks actually. So for the people who are new on the executive board, back in November 2021, the board passed a resolution in opposition to the homeless shelter proposed for 6661 Broadway for 130 males. We cited many reasons for that, from location to quality of life to lack of screening to its position across from the park and Little League fields, to the negative effect it would have on not only Bronx, but Yonkers, since it's on the borderline, and many other reasons. In December, we invited DHS to update the community, and we learned that AAPCI, the provider, was no longer the provider. And that's why that meeting was postponed. On March 16th, we received official notice that West Hab Inc. would be the new provider for the same program, 130 homeless men. we had learned already from an expose in the New York Post that there was a serious nepotism problem, that the DHS administrator is the sister of the vice president of West Hab. West Hab has received $1.7 billion in contracts from New York City. And this contract, we had a lot of issues with this contract. For example, when I read to you at the last board meeting, what the contract for West Hab was, it was way more than what the AAPCI contract was. AAPCI was 195 million for 24 years. West Hab last month was 354 million. Now, as of last Friday, when Luke checked Passport, it had gone from 354 million to 390 million. This is almost double in 2 years, in less than 2 years. How, it just, the whole thing, no office of, Mayor's Office of Contract Services hearing, no nothing, not a word, just this huge amount. So we have written, along with Assemblyman Dinowitz, Councilman Dinowitz, Senator Rivera, the board, we have reached out to the mayor's office, the borough president, the Conflict of Interest Board, the DOI, Department of Investigation, the, let me see if there's anyone else, either directly or in CCs. We have asked for a review of the situation. It's not as if we could see the contract because there was no Mox hearing. And even though it's a useless preliminary contract, you don't even have that to look at. So I will let you know when we get a response. We got a response so far, not a real response, confirmation they received a letter from the Conflict of Interest Board. So I'll keep you informed on that. What's very upsetting is that I was reading a newsletter put out by Department of Homeless Services. And I'm going to read you something that I think really does not pass the smell test. The city has launched a new $15 million shelter development and acquisition fund for nonprofit homeless service providers to build, own, and operate the shelters. So now I'm wondering, this doubling of prices, and all this is like a windfall that at the end of the day, the nonprofit owns the building. I mean, this is now big real estate venture. So they've set aside some money for that. I mean, this is the whole system. It's just very upsetting. Now, last Tuesday, Councilman Dinowitz arranged a meeting and I attended, Assemblyman Dinowitz, representatives of Senator Gustavo Rivera, the Department of Homeless Services, Department of Social Services, and West Hab. So, but this is what I learned. They are absolutely not changing the model. It's for 2 years, we've been banging the drum. We will do our part. Give us permanent housing. Give us supportive housing, but not this transit housing. They were adamant that that is, they're not changing the model. They can't change the model. Okay. On a favorable note, it's going to be known as an employment shelter. An employment shelter means that when they're going through whatever services they have as they do placements, a percentage of the population will hold a job, or will have jobs. And, that is very positive. However, when I spoke to the councilman from Queens, who has a shelter in his district, Councilman Holder, the shelter that they're having a ton of problems with, and he sent me something this thick, with 911s and 311s and problems, and sent me a video. He's, that's an employment shelter. But they have 200 people and half of them are employed. So they still have 100 people, or, they still have a lot of problems. But I consider that a favorable outcome, that it would be an employment shelter. When asked about the money that has doubled for the contract, they attributed it to interest rates have gone up. And interest rates have gone up, but not like this, 80% now, doubling for them to the cost. So that I'm reporting what they said. Now, at the time that we had this, we only had the number I announced last month. We didn't have this additional, millions of dollars that we only learned that last Friday. So, that was their thing for that. It was helpful, but it was not, it was depressing because of the reports that I got from West Hab. Now, I have received, we have been searching, and we got some other establishments, homeless shelters that West Hab is in charge of, and we will check it out. We will check out with the community boards. We will see what we could do to improve things, if they do continue as being our provider. Let me see if there's anything else. Oh, yeah. I learned they cannot make a May 10th meeting. We had invited them, but West Hab cannot make May 10th. So I am looking at the May calendar and going to give them some other dates and see if we can get them to come to a meeting to inform the community. And that's that. Are there any questions about that? Rosemary, your hand is up.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me? I'm unmuted. Okay, so just like I'll go to the last point. So you're inviting them to a meeting. One of my questions is, you're giving a very full report here, which I would expect to come from a committee. Is this item before a committee? And
Yes,
if they
going
come,
to-
what committee are they going to be before?
It's going to health hospitals and social
Health
services.
hospitals, okay. So that my second and third questions are very close to each other. You stated that we passed a resolution opposed to this shelter. I'm not aware of us ever voting for a resolution that was opposed to this shelter, ever. So if I'm wrong, please, just Luke or somebody can send me that resolution where we voted in opposition to the shelter. There was a land use committee resolution that talked about process. The process should change, the rules should change, the state legislature should change the rules, but never, in my memory, did we vote in opposition to this shelter. No, in addition to that, you say that we passed a resolution in support of permanent or supportive housing. I'm also not aware of us ever passing a resolution in support of permanent or supportive housing. So those two questions on resolutions I would like, and I'm glad this will go health and hospitals. That's where the meeting would be. Very good. Thank you. Maybe you have answers to these questions now. You don't have to. Those are questions I'd like to have
Okay,
answers to.
so
Thank you.
just a few snippets from the resolution, if you allow me. The siding, 6661 Broadway on the westerly side of Broadway opposite Van Cortlandt Park. It's playing fields, children's play areas, and vast unsecurable woodlands as being unacceptable. That this location does not entail any sound community planning, infrastructure, land use, or like considerations. Whereas the aforementioned DHS proposal will adversely affect not just residents and taxpayers of the city of New York, but also adjacent Westchester County residents. Whereas little is known concerning the qualifications of the proposed DHS contractor, its officers, agents to manage a shelter such as here proposed, financial integrity, et cetera, et cetera. Whereas there have been fatal process failures on the part of DHS and the city of New York, including the instant siting of transitional housing, that this site on Broadway is already saturated with numerous group homes and supportive housing facilities, that there are no intake restrictions on residents. The location is 1 mile from the nearest subway and is served by only one local bus line, making employment difficult, increasing risks about people being able to function for appointments. I could go on and on. It was pretty negative about the site and this, okay?
And therefore be it resolved
Well, therefore be it resolved.
that,
Well, that is way too long to read. It's about, until such time, I mean, it's like very long. Until such time is concerned.
Laura, we never voted in opposition to this site. That's it.
Until
Acknowledge
such
it,
time as
okay?
the concerns cited herein are first addressed by DHS in a manner satisfactory to the board or in a written report by the City Planning Commission, following public hearing and due diligence, the DHS proposal is shown to be, when it is shown to be, if it is shown to be consistent with sound planning, community goals that have been adequately and has been adequate opportunity for prior community and community board review and input, further action and to any way implement should be deferred. I don't know. Is there anybody in this meeting tonight that thinks that we support this shelter? Raise your hand. Please raise your hand.
Laura,
no,
that is
no,
an
no.
inappropriate question to ask the executive committee, okay? It is, we vote, we are a board, we vote by board resolution. You do not ask the executive committee under threat of, oh my God, I'm watching you, raise your hand, okay? That is not the way we do business on the board, okay? Now, if you believe that we had a resolution voting against it, I believe we did not. Put that aside.
That's fine, Rosemary.
Okay, number two, you said there was a resolution where we supported at this site, permanent or supportive housing. I'm not aware of any resolution that we approved that supported permanent or supportive housing on this site. Those are my two questions. That's it.
Okay, the elected officials asked for that.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't know what
Okay.
that means. They
Yeah.
asked for what?
Please don't yell, and if you could just stop yelling, Rosemary.
Of course, yes.
You said you were going to give me a chance to respond.
I'm giving it,
Thank you.
yes. Okay, of course.
Okay. I proceeded and I sent the board everything that I said at the Mayor's Office of Contract Services. I had that approved. Chuck had co-wrote it. We based it on the facts in this resolution. And I had, in that year of 2021, 22, there were meetings with Department of Homeland Services, and it was, why this model? It was a central question. Why this density? Why 130 men? Why not something else? I will present a resolution gladly, but it was just understood that for the reasons that I just read, the model of 130 men was difficult. And in fact, there are things in, that we want to do our share. We want to do our part. We understand there's a housing crisis. We understand there's a homeless crisis. That's in here too. And so therefore, it's this particular model. I don't think, after hearing at the gallery, so many people, so many letters, I think we got hundreds. We had maybe 500 people on the call when DHS came. 500 people in opposition. And many of them said, we understand there's a crisis, but this is the congruent, this model is a failure. It's been shown to be a failure. Advocates for the Homeless stated the congregate model is a failure. So I don't know that we need to discuss that, that piece of it, but certainly we could do a resolution. I see other hands.
No, just to finish up, Madam Chair, you said we passed a resolution in opposition. We did not. If we did, please send it to me. Number two, you said we passed a resolution in support of permanent or supportive housing at this site. I have no memory of that. If we did.
No, I never
please
said
send
we
it to
passed
me.
a resolution in that.
I'm sorry, you just.
I have
it
said that
because
in the
of Zoom.
letters that, well, I'm sorry, you misheard.
Okay, you said we passed a resolution in support of.
We have a
Okay,
point, can I have a point of order? This
Done.
debating is not appropriate with the chair. And if she's explained
Fine,
it, just
next,
let's
you're right,
just move on, please.
we will.
Camelia and Sylvia.
All right, just to
I'm
clarify,
sorry,
I didn't raise-
Camelia first.
Okay, I didn't raise my hand when you asked kind of the rhetorical question. Just wanted to make sure I clarify that. Laura, give me, I quite remember quite well this resolution that you're referring to, but please help me and tell me exactly what month was it on? I'm on the website trying to find it. And I remember then, because it was just, it was unanimous, 2 abstentions. There were me and Margaret, and the text of the resolution was so complicated and so complex that frankly, I think it is a little bit of, to agree partially with Rosemary, it is a little bit oversimplifying to say that we opposed the site. I do not know if we oppose the site, location, geographical. I do believe we oppose the model, like you, Laura, correctly pointed out. And second, also I want to ask, because I don't believe I missed any land use meetings for the past like 3 years. I don't think we passed anything on affordable housing, respectfully. I think there's something in front of us today that's not even from land use, but it's from the individual chair of land use without land use committee vote. So just wanted to clarify that. And if you'd be so kind and tell me the date the month when we passed this, Laura, the previous
November.
resolution. Thank you so much. Thank you,
November
Laura. Thank
15, 2021.
you. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Camelia. Sylvia.
No, I'm going to tag on to Camelia. If we did pass a resolution, what was the vote?
You know what? I have in front of me, but I don't have the minutes with the vote. I just have the.
Or wouldn't it be on the resolution?
Yeah, but not what I'm looking at. I just don't have that page. I have.
Well, that would be interesting to know how everyone felt.
Easily, I'm sure it's on the minutes. I just don't have that page. I actually have the resolution.
Ms. Alexander, I was just jumping, Laura, excuse me. It was
Yeah.
unanimous with 2 abstentions. The 2 abstentions were Margaret and myself. It was unanimous, the resolution. I mean, unanimous minus 2, obviously.
Okay. Seeing no hands. Thank you for your attention, and moving on to the treasurer's report. Scott.
All right, thanks, Laura. Pablo, can we get the April report on the screen, please?
I think I'm doing the share screen,
Oh.
Scott.
Okay, thanks.
So hang on a second. This is not my specialty. Let me see. Okay, that didn't really help. All right. So let me call on one of our tech advisors who happens to be on the meeting. If I have the executive committee minutes up on or whatever they are up on my screen, how do I do that on share screen? And I'm looking at you, Deb Travis, because I know you know how to do this.
How do you're trying to just share it right now?
Yeah, and it's one of several items that I have saved on my desktop.
I see. So when you hit share screen at the bottom,
Yeah,
it should give you a bunch of windows,
yeah.
and one of those windows will have the minutes in it. So just click on the window that has the minutes and then press share.
Well, is it desktop? I mean, it's on my desktop. Is that the one I want to click on?
You should be able to actually see the minutes. You should be able to see kind of what it's about to present in the window.
Oh, son of a gun, there it is, right? Can you see that?
Not yet.
I think you have to press
yet.
share. There's like one more button usually.
Oh, yeah? Okay, and where's the damn share button? Hang on. Okay, let's find the share button.
When you select the
Oh, I got,
minutes,
yeah, I see, I
it
see.
pops up.
Share and now open system preferences. But now we're back where we were before.
Open system preferences.
You
Hmm.
want to double click the item you want to open up.
Double click it. Okay,
Oh, was your item not open?
it's open. It's on my desktop right now.
But did you open the document? Can you see the document?
I can see the document.
Yeah, so then if you go down to share screen and you press share screen, it should present you with all, like, every monitor or every document that's open. It should show you each of those, and then you select which one you'd like to share.
I'm wondering if maybe we should make Deb co-host.
I don't have the minutes, so. Oh, Bob, you muted yourself.
It's not the minutes, it's just the treasurer's
The
report.
Oh, the
packet.
treasurer's report. Oh,
Right.
I don't think
It's
I
in the
have that.
packet.
It's in the packet. I have the
Separate
whole packet and
attachment.
this is part of it. So Deb, I've got it up on my screen. Now I go back to share, you're saying?
Should.
Yep,
Okay, and now it says allow Zoom to share your screen, open system preferences. And that's what I do.
allow Zoom.
And I'm still not, oh, okay, here's desktop. Let's try that. No, that's not doing anything. Let me see if I can send this document to you. Deb, okay?
I've got the packet. If you just wanna, if you go, Bob, if you go down to the bottom where it says share screen and enable, and where you can make me a host or co-host.
Oh, no, well, that's on participants. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay, all right, hang on.
It
You have
looks-
the packet, you're saying.
yep, I just pulled up the packet.
Okay, great.
It's funny, I don't see the treasurer's report. If
A
that's what
separate
we're-
attachment, it was a separate attachment from the packet. It was the same email from Pablo. It was a separate attachment.
All right.
It's the last item.
So I just pulled up the meeting notice executive committee, and I have one attachment, which is executive
No,
committee
it's-
packet.
It's the one that was sent earlier.
It was sent earlier.
Reminder.
Not that one.
It was sent last night at 6:04. No, I'm sorry, April 7th at 6:04. It was sent
It was sent on Friday.
Friday, the 7th at 6:04 PM.
Do you know what the subject is?
It's the
Executive Committee packet.
Committee packet, April 2023.
Okay.
And the word packet is all capitalized.
But I thought that it also went today. In an-
No, it didn't have the
It-
entire
Okay.
thing.
Packet today.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
We'll get there.
Takes a village.
So I got minutes, amended packet, executive committee, and minutes executive. Is that right? March, that's March 1st. That's not right.
It should say April
April 7th.
2023.
And I don't have anything from that date.
I just emailed it to you, Deb. I just forwarded you the email, so maybe you'll get it in a second.
All right. Do you want to go on to the something?
Laura?
Oh, wait, there we
Laura?
go. There we go.
Sergio has his hand raised.
Oh, Sergio, go ahead.
Updated on two issues I had raised with the board. I thought that the
Sergio, you're
executive
going in
committee
and
should know
out.
about.
Sergio, you're going in and out a little bit.
There were two issues.
He's
Um,
muted.
Can you hear me now?
While Sergio speaks, Bob, can you make me a co-host right now? I can't share anything. I've got the treasurer's packet, but then I'll
Oh,
return.
I
it.
thought
Are
I
you
just
able to-
did
Are you
that.
able to hear me now, guys?
Yes,
Better.
Lee Chong is
Okay.
a co-host,
I want,
and that's it.
You made me co-host?
Lee is co-host right now.
Oh, shit. Excuse my French.
That's okay.
Wait a minute. Well, it keeps.
I don't
hold
know how
on.
to do this.
Hold on. I'll get it there. It just keeps moving around. Okay. Okay, you should be co-host now, Deb.
Yep. So
it says Deb is the co-host now.
Yep. Do you want me to do the treasurer's thing, or would you rather have Sergio go? I know he has to go.
Well, do you
Sergio?
have it now?
Yeah. Yep. I have the treasurer's report, and I seem to have the ability to share. So
Great.
there we go. But I can stop, and if Sergio needs to go.
It's
Sergio,
up to Madam Chair. Yes, I just wanted to update that the board is following up on the two issues. The letter I wrote several months ago that I have not gotten a response to, inquiring about the board emails for individual members and their usage. And then I also raised the issue, I think, amongst a few of us, and Bob responded about the closure of West 236th Street, which the board said that the office said that they would be following up with the 501 closure on the permanent closure of the street.
yes, the office has followed up.
Yes, thank you.
And
And I
we'll
thank the
be
office for
back
that.
in about a week, and I have spoken to Kelly about that at length, what the history of that is, and we should have some feedback in a week.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, treasurer.
Okay,
Thank-
so yeah, on the screen is the updated April treasurer's report. Table 1 reflects personal services, an update of salaries paid. Remaining balance from now till the end of the fiscal year is 94,472. So everything there is progressing normally. Table 1 also reflects, other than personal services, OTPS with a balance remaining of 23,291. And in table 1.1, that's broken down into some more detail. Over the last month, we purchased some office supplies and equipment and paid fees to the Norwood News for the publishing of the DM job vacancy. As you can see, though, we still have 16,968. And then our general cushion object code, which is object code 499. So we still have a decent amount of money to get us through the end of June. As of today, as of this month, in table 1.2, there's no budget modifications. Table 1.3, if we scroll down a little bit, has requested an encumbered funds. Again, encumbered means items that have been purchased and inputted in the system but are awaiting payment. We currently hold 2880 in encumbered funds. That's mostly consisting of the OTPS office supply purchases that we just made, I just referenced. So that should be cleared up by next month. And finally, in table 1.4, rent and energy detail. That's not something that we have control over, but we monitor progress here for reference. And that's the report for this month.
Are there any questions or comments?
Yes.
David,
Okay,
Yes, can you go back to 1.1, page 1? Yes, the 400s office items, almost all the budget remains. And we've
Right.
got, what, 8 weeks left of the year. What's that all about? Surprised to see that.
I understand there's going to be possibly a budget modification discussion commencing soon, and that'll be presented next month. But that's my understanding. So we need to obviously get that money spent by the end of the fiscal year.
Budget modification as in we might try to move it to a different line.
Right, because we can't charge the 499. We can't charge the general object code 499 with the 16,000 plus. So we'll have
I
to
see.
move it to other categories, correct?
To like a supplies or equipment or services.
Right, right.
Okay, very
right.
good. All right, but that's still a good chunk of our budget, so, and we don't have much time left. So just keep in mind, please. Thank you.
Rosemary.
next hand is Rosemary.
Scott, I had exactly the same question, that amount of money. Where are the plans for it to go? You don't know now, but it has to be done in 1 month. Is that fair to say? In other words, am I right? That whatever vision for the remaining $18,000 has to be accomplished in a budget mod next month. Is that
Correct.
correct?
That's my understanding, correct.
Okay, so, and you can't give us a clue as to what the thoughts are or what the areas are? Well, you don't have to, but
Me
you
personally,
can.
I haven't had those discussions yet with.
Okay, understood, fair. Thank you. I had the same question as David. Thank you.
No problem.
Any other hands? I know we just received, just an aside, a state-of-the-art phone for the conference room that costs $800. State-of-the-art for the conference room that will solve the auditory complaints that we had about the sound system when we're using Zoom in the conference room. So this is a phone system, but it's also got these speakers, and it's set up to work with our other phones. We no longer had a phone in the conference room because Ida wiped that whole thing out. So we are working on that as continual. So there are expenses, there are, ideas, but I have to say, unfortunately, I think for many years, we do end up giving money back to the city. And this has been going on because we're very careful with our spending, and we just, we're working on it. That's all I could say. Okay, David, is your hand up from before?
No, you brought back to mind though. What is the status of the hotspot? We are likely to have to get out of this whole Zoom world capability, I would think, by the end of June. And we've been talking about it for a year or so, about being able to use a hotspot to do hybrid or whatever you want to call it. So Kira was investigating that
Yes,
for a couple months.
Yes, and she has written and not gotten the response yet from the city on the vendor for that. But you're right, and I'm glad you brought it up and we'll write it down. We continue to work on the hotspot.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, moving on. Camelia, your hand is up.
Yeah, sorry, just for the budget, Laura, I'm not happy with this giving money back situation. So just a suggestion. I mean, if there's money in supplies and whatever, why don't we order like a bunch of reusable shopping bags with the CB8, name and when website, and give them away at community events, etc., etc. I mean, this is a good environmental purpose, and giving money back to the city, I don't think benefits anyone, and in the long term just makes us look like we ask for money that then we are not able to absorb. Just a suggestion.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Just consider, please.
We have boxes and boxes and boxes of the bags, boxes. Just so you know, we hope to do more tabling and, distribute them more widely. But thank you, Camelia. Okay, so moving on to committee resolutions.
Do you want me to put up the resolutions?
Yes, I'll do the public safety first.
Is there anything in the realm of the district manager report?
Bob?
Well, number one, there is no district manager.
Yeah, I'm aware of that.
Okay. Number two, there is a district manager search committee. And that search committee met back on March 22nd and chose from the resumes that had been received 4 candidates that we decided we want to interview. And we are going to be interviewing those candidates over the next couple of nights, after which we will report back.
Thank you, Bob. Okay, so we have the resolution for the Public Safety Committee. Let me present a representative of Jake's Steakhouse located at 6031 Broadway, appeared before the Public Safety Committee. This is for a renewal of a liquor license. The 50th Precinct stated they were unaware of any disturbances or complaints at this location. That's the first one. The second one is a representative of Smash Burger located at 193 West 237th Street appeared at the committee meeting and also for a renewal. And it was said by the 50th Precinct that they were unaware of any complaints at this location. The third and final is the Neem Indian Cuisine located at 3549 Johnson Avenue. Appeared before the Public Safety Committee. The 50th Precinct were unaware of any prior. So for all three, Neem Indian Cuisine represented and Smash Burger and Jake's Steakhouse, it was unanimously approved to renew the liquor license. Are there any questions? Those are the only ones before us. Okay, so this, Kelly, was voted on at TNT, the request for the street renaming. And I think Marty needs 2 votes. Am I correct?
Yes,
Yes.
I think it already had one vote, didn't it?
Yes, we did.
Yes.
We did. But so it's still in the packet because it's going to be presented again at the full board for the second and final vote. But I don't think we need to discuss it. We discussed it last month.
I just sent it.
What did you just?
Yeah, okay.
Oh, Marty's on the phone. Okay.
Marty's on the phone, right? Yeah.
Marty, please, yeah, you go.
No, it's understood. It may be about the land use. This is
Laura, this is Luke. I'm just letting you know that I joined.
okay, thank you, Luke. Okay, so Chuck is not on the call. I don't.
Just note that I contacted Chuck. He'll be on in 10 minutes.
Okay, so we'll go back to this. So after resolutions, committee member issues for discussion. Okay, today I was on a call with Bob Bender and Payman Lodi from Tishman. And Bob Bender is going to give a report on that. Bob, are you ready? Because there were a number of issues that Rosemary raised at the last community board land use meeting. And we have been endeavoring to find out information on all of the aspects that she raised, the documents and any impacts. And Bob, if you're ready.
Yeah, and also I wanted to mention that Luke, who has just joined us, was also on that call.
Oh, yes, I'm so sorry. Yes.
Right, which was quite valuable because Luke, as I believe everybody knows, was with the buildings department before. And I will say I know next to nothing about zoning, and I don't think Laura would be upset if I said she's not terribly knowledgeable about zoning either. Luke knows a great deal more. And we were on the call with both Payman and Michael Babick, who was at the most recent land use meeting where we discussed the Tishman project. And also their lawyer who handled the zoning was on that call as well. So I think the most important thing to say, and I see that Payman is here on the call tonight, which I'm glad to see. I think the most important thing to start with is that there was no zoning lot merger. That simply did not happen. The site that we're dealing with was a single zoning lot when it was owned by the Archdiocese of New York. It was one zoning lot. In order to, the School Construction Authority did not want the entire lot. They did not have a use for the entire lot. The lot was going to be separated into tax lots so that it could be divided up so that SCA has part of it and Tishman has part of it. So that's what happened, and I think that's the most important thing to clarify. So there was an agreement between the Archdiocese of New York, the School Construction Authority, and Tishman on how these tax lots were being divided up. But nothing was brought together. It was a matter of separating them so that the School Construction Authority and Tishman could go ahead with the two projects. There's a great deal more to get into, and I am deeply reluctant to get into it because the terminology is incredibly complicated. But the main thing to come out of this, I think, aside from the clarification about the zoning lot merger that didn't actually happen, is that Tishman covers less, Tishman's building will cover less of its lot than it could cover. And its FAR is actually going to be less than the FAR that it would be entitled to. Tishman and SCA made an arrangement where SCA would have an easement on Tishman's air rights. And it was that easement that allowed SCA and the school to put windows on a side of the school that overlooks the play area. And, you know, there was an arrangement made between Tishman and SCA about that. But I think that's as much detail as I am comfortable getting into, because anything further really gets complicated. And as I say, it's beyond my skill. Before we take any questions, Luke, would you want to say anything further to try to clarify the situation?
Sure. So one thing that Payman and Tishman Speyer mentioned on the call today is that part of the reason for this mix-up for calling it a zoning lot merger might be because it's using the same type of document that a zoning lot merger would do, which is a ZELDA, which is, let me just pull it up here. That's a zoning lot development and easement agreement. But in this case, it kind of happened the opposite of a merger, where they started with the Archdiocese owned an entire lot. They had their rectory on a separate tax lot. And when they sold the sites to a portion to SCA and a portion to Tishman Speyer, they did a tax lot reapportionment to align the tax lot boundaries with the actual parcels that were going to be acquired by both. And instead of each of these buildings having a certain allotment of community facility and residential, they bulked those different types of uses that are allowed on the site, on the zoning lot, into these two different buildings, which are exclusively by SCA, the school community facility, and the residential portion on the Tishman Speyer lot. Of course, there's like some fine-tune, very small details that are these easements that affected the Tishman lot, which we got a little bit more information about. Actually, it's all publicly available, but we were able to understand it a little bit better after this call. But that's an overview.
Chuck is on the call now.
Very good. Well, I I was pleased to speak with Payman, pleased that we were able to start the discussion of sharing information today. It was a very difficult week. It was Holy Week, it was Passover, people preparing for the holiday. And Payman responded very quickly and, felt that he's going to put in writing the company responses to what was raised. And what was raised was the impact Rosemary was raising, happened, which there wasn't a zoning lot merger according to what we heard today, and you'll hear more. Would this affect the setback or open space or FAR or the development of the school site? And thus far, the way it was explained, and this whole application to do this started with the Archdiocese. It's not going to. It doesn't appear to do that. And as far as I did ask Tishman Speyer to listen to the recording so that they understood all the issues that were raised, and they did. And like I said, Holy Week, and the team, many people are away, but they are going to respond in writing, possibly as soon as tomorrow, and I will distribute that to what was raised on the recording. And Payman is here, and if there are questions, and I'd like to give Payman an opportunity to respond, to take advantage of this. This is really very, very important. So,
Yeah, thank you,
Payman,
Laura.
yes.
Hi, everyone. Good evening.
and then we will also get to questions, of course. Payman.
So for those who we haven't met, my name is Payman Lilly from Tishman Speyer. As Laura and Bob mentioned, we were recently made aware of the conversation that took place at the Land Use Committee meeting last week. We had a chance to view that discussion and want to be very clear that nothing we submitted, presented, or conveyed to the community board, or anyone else for that matter, has been untruthful or deceptive, using the word of some community board members. When we met with Bob and Laura this afternoon to discuss the zoning details with our land use council, we shared some of these points, and we discussed some of them. We're preparing a written response, as Laura mentioned, which I believe will be shared with the rest of the community board. I don't want to speak for Bob or Laura, but I believe we successfully assuaged any of these concerns about zoning calculations related to our project. But just to summarize, there was no zoning lot merger. We did not purchase development rights from the SEA. In fact, we granted them development rights, in addition to the easement rights that benefit the SEA while encumbering our project. All of these agreements were done in partnership and with the consent of the SEA. In terms of the lot coverage calculation at last month's meeting, we provided a lot coverage ratio for the residential buildings on our portion of the tax lot area. We understand some community board members voiced concerns that what we presented understated our lot coverage by basing our residential building against the lot area of the entire zoning lot, including the SEAs. We did not do so during our presentation, and I'm not here to say that we are doing that now. Again, some of the zoning lot coverage pieces related to the actual zoning is a little bit more complicated in terms of the calculations, which I think we walked through with Bob and Laura and Luke on the call. But again, everything that we're doing is in compliance with zoning, and what we stated at last month's land use committee still holds.
Thank you.
Laura, before we move on to the questions, I just wanted to say, one thing which we should all keep in mind is that Tishman has been responsive to us. Every time we have raised an issue, they have either come back to us or they've offered to answer questions, and they have done that when individual board members have contacted them. And we spent an hour today going over some pretty gnarly details about zoning, which were way above my pay grade. But I followed the conversation. We were tutored in some basics of zoning regulations. And I really do think that Tishman is making a real effort here to be as open and transparent with the community board as possible.
Thank you, Bob.
I also want to say, because I don't want to forget, tomorrow we will send the board what was projected at the last presentation, so that board members can feel free to email and phone Tishman Speyer and they will get a response. David did that and he got a response. It would be great if you CC'd the board with your questions as well, or with responses, but you're free to do this. And that's 160 vcps@tishmanspire.com with a phone number. We will send that tomorrow to board members. So we keep this going. We keep the dialogue going. And I thank you for being accessible. So with that, Bob, you want to move to the questions?
Yeah, I see David's hand up.
Yes, thank you. I'm a little puzzled. I was not aware that this was going to be on the agenda tonight, so I cannot at hand reach the third document from Dan and Kelly's meeting with Tishman, which I will get to in a moment. But what I said at our last land use meeting was that I was concerned that what was presented to us originally of about 77,000 square feet on the Tishman slide gave the impression that they were using only their portion. I did then send an email to Payman for clarification, and he about the 77,856 square feet. And his response was that is a good question. He should have clarified during the presentation. Figures on the slide are for the residential portion only. It does not include the school portion of the block. That concerns me because when I did go look at the tax lot 150, which is the residential portion, and the new 160, which is the school portion of it, they are 55,000 and 22,000 square feet respectively on their lot for the development. So therefore, yeah, I did use the word disingenuous because the work that they're going to do is the only residential portion, but it is based on the using of the square footage on lot 160, the school lot, as well as lot 150, which is the residential part of it. Then the third thing I mentioned, and I don't have it in front of me, was that in response to questions that were raised by Kelly and Dan about this site, that the Tishman said, you can take it to the bank. We have not taken any, I think of the term was, we haven't taken any air rights or development rights from the other lot, 160, implying 160. Well, that's just not so. Clearly, they are using 77,000 square feet as the basis for they're doing the FAR calculations, but they are only building on a 55,000 square foot entity, lot 150.
Yeah, sorry, David, because
my statement stands.
Yeah, David, I think that some of this can be resolved just because this is it's a little bit more complicated. So this is one single zoning lot for both the SEA's portion and for our portion. So for the purposes of calculating floor area in terms of residential that we're proposing, it's based on the entire zoning lot area, which includes the SEA's portion. When we say the lot coverage ratio, which we provided, that is based on the tax lot, which is separate from the SEAs. And, it was clear what we were trying to demonstrate is, how much of the coverage of our own parcel are we developing on? So I think nothing that I said was disingenuous or hopefully not deceptive. But I just wanted to clarify that. And then in regards to the discussion that took place with the September Transportation Committee, I believe if you check the minutes, this was about the conversation about community facility FAR. And, when asked, did we receive any community facility FAR or purchase it from the SEA? the answer was adamantly no then, and it's still adamantly no now.
All right, I'd look, like I said, I'm at a disadvantage because I was not aware this was coming up. I just want to say that your previous comment was a distinction without a difference. You're saying that the whole lot, which is really two lots, 150 and 160, comprise 77,000 square feet.
Yes, but I think
150, which is where you were doing your building, your construction for the residential property, is 55,000 square feet. And I'm not saying you did anything illegal by any stretch of the imagination. However, I believe that it is, again.
but this is just where it gets very technical, right? So you said no distinction without any difference, but there's actually zoning lot and tax lots are two distinct differences. And you know, I see Lee shaking her head from her days at the VP's office can articulate why that's the case. And so, you know, for the purposes of how we're being built, it's based on the zoning lot, which is not, you know, separate from the SCAs. Our, you know, and the Zelda gets into this, we had to do a, you know, zoning lot, a tax lot subdivision to separate ownership between the SCA and our portion of the lot. So I can appreciate how complicated this stuff is. I'm here to just state that what we presented was accurate and still is accurate.
All right, just for
David,
clarification.
We're going to move on now, David, to Rosemary,
Yeah.
whose hand is up.
Yeah, and may I
Rosemary, you
also
have
just
the
add,
floor.
before Rosemary speaks, I only found out at 6:45 that Payman was going to try to be on this call. And I said, so it's not on the agenda. We did not know. And I'm delighted that he is. And when I told him to listen to the recording, I said, there's a lot of issues. And we tried to get as much covering. I said that we would investigate and do our research and due diligence. And that's what we are doing. But it was only, you know, everything came together very fast because people were away for the holiday. So no, it couldn't have been on the agenda. I didn't know Payman was going to be here. And I texted Bob. I didn't even speak to him about it. And I said, did you see my text? And Payman wasn't 100%, but he was going to try. And thank you for being here. Rosemary, you're up.
Okay, so I'm glad you're delighted, Laura, that he's here, and because he's been here and he has spoken, I'm sure you will allow other people to speak at this executive committee meeting, which you must do because you allowed him to speak. So let me go. It's my turn. My turn.
That's what we're doing right now.
Okay, very good. So this is the biggest disgrace that I have ever seen in my 14 years of membership on this board. This is a disgrace that at an executive committee meeting, you report that there was a private conversation between Bob Bender, Luke, and Laura with the developers. And as a result of that, you have concluded exactly what the truth is. Exactly what the truth is. You have done this privately off the screen with no community, with no input whatsoever from anybody else. This is the biggest disgrace I have had in my 14 years. Okay, this is a total advertisement for Tishman Speyer, a complete advertisement for Tishman Speyer. You have not included any other voice in the questioning, whether it be the community, me, the land use committee members, or community board members. They have been excluded from your private conversations, but your private conversations have concluded that Tishman Speyer is all right. They're right, and everybody else is wrong. I have to tell you, everything that has been said tonight in exec belongs at the land use committee meeting. They have to come and not hide behind their fortifications. Come and make a presentation. You're so right. That's fine. I hope you are. Come and explain. come and accept questions from other people other than, let's see, Bob Bender, Luke, and Laura, okay? Maybe accept questions from the community and the land use committee members. I have to tell you this, shame on you. Shame on you for having done this. This is a disgrace. I will
Well,
stop it.
moving-
It's a disgrace. I
moving-
stop, that's it. I'm not going back and forth. I'm stopping.
No, moving
Shame on
forward,
you.
I have a different piece of information. After the land use meeting, we reached out to Juton at the Borough President's office and also to city planning. We explained the questions that were before us about this, and we had every intention of including you, Rosemary, and anybody else with the conversation with Juton. We wanted to hear from Tishman Speyer. We are entitled to ask Tishman Speyer, since they're the subject of this, and they're giving their piece. And we reported on what they said. And we were not ending it here because we still have to talk to the Borough President's office, and they are very familiar with this project. And Juton was formerly with the city planning. And for that, we're taking this on the road. We started with the subject, Tishman Speyer. That was the right thing to do. Then we reported on this, and they are putting whatever they said in writing, and that will be sent to the newspaper. And we will continue with Department of City Planning and the Borough President's office on this project to try to find implications, whatever. Then we go to the school. I mean, I have a big question. The fact is that the Archdiocese sold at the same time to Tishman Speyer for residents and the school. They maximized what they could do and the profit they can make on their land. And this was all, this is out there. It's all public record. We could flood the land use committee with public records, and we'll do that tomorrow. And we
Shame
will.
on you. Shame on you.
Next person.
No, Laura, I want to respond because I think
Thank you.
Rosemary's comments require a response.
Thank you.
So first of all, I think it was abundantly clear that what I offered was my opinion based on the conversation that I had, which doesn't require any apology or any explanation to you, Rosemary, or to anybody else. But of course, nobody else has asked for one or has decided to go into the histrionics that you chose to go into tonight. I think what you're really annoyed about is that you were wrong. There was no zoning lot merger. And, you know, I'm very sorry that you're upset about it, Rosemary, but facts are facts, and we're going to continue to have this discussion as necessary. And I'm sorry it bothered you, but facts are facts. Okay, Lee Chong.
Clarification after all this. My understanding, this was one zoning lot when it was visitation and their school, correct? Payment?
Correct.
Okay. So when Tishman Speyer and School Construction Authority was in a negotiation with the Archdiocese, there was a decision to split the zoning lot.
No,
No?
not split the zoning lot. The zoning lot stays intact, but to subdivide the tax lot under
Okay,
separate ownership.
okay. So that means, but then the FAR is for one zoning lot.
Correct. And so what has to happen as part of the ZELDA, the zoning lot development agreement, is you have to apportion which entity receives what portion of the development rights.
But the FAR has to stay the same.
According to the ZELDA, yeah,
Right,
that's the
okay.
agreement between the
So
two
what
parties.
happened is you got a larger portion than the school, correct?
We purchased the larger portion of the lot than the
Right.
SEA did. I mean, according to what the Archdiocese put to market.
Okay. Oh, so they decided how much they wanted, how to split it, not you guys.
Correct.
All right.
I mean, they decided how they wanted to split it, and then we entered into negotiations with the SEA on the zoning lot development agreement so that they had comfort with certain things like the easements that they needed to make sure that they were operating the school properly. Again, you know, it further restricts our property, but it was necessary to make it a development project for the
This
school.
side is zone what?
R7-1,
R7-1. Okay, but previously it was community facility.
so the R7-1 zoning district allows
Now it's
for,
a community facility.
allows
Okay.
for community facility and residential use, right?
All right.
Yep,
That's what I wanted. I didn't know what the zoning was. Now I know. Thank you very much.
of course.
Sylvia, I'm not sure, Laura, which of us is calling on people.
Bob,
So
you.
I see Sylvia.
Okay, originally this item was in land use. And then it was transferred into education. We passed a resolution that the site was appropriate for a school, and certainly we needed a school. When SEA came to us, they swore up and down that they had nothing to do with the other portion of the land. Only the school. When Tishman came, they said, we have nothing to do with SCA. It's only our building. Now, I want to know when all that changed, because right now, it sounds like you guys are all doing everything together and you're kind of stroking each other. And what we voted for in the resolution for the site seems to be lost somewhere in the shuffle. So I would like, as chair of education, to know where we stand.
So I think the question is, you know, related to our statements before that, you know, we're not in charge of the SEA's development, and the SEA is not in charge of our development, and they're two separate developments that are occurring on the same zoning lot. Having said that, you know, we stated to this community board that we are going to be in close coordination with the SEA as we begin construction, and, you know, of course, we had to come to terms on a zoning lot development agreement with the SEA to make sure that they were comfortable and had a project that they thought that they could build, you know, requiring certain easements from us, which we granted. And, you know, so again, like what we said at the last land use committee meeting was that we can't speak on behalf of the SEA or speak about, you know, the timing of their project or, you know, the total scale or what their project's going to look like. You know, we're only here to talk about our own. I think that still stands.
It's very confusing. I'm done.
Marty?
Yes, I want to thank you, Payman, for being here, and I want to thank Laura for allowing you to speak at this meeting. I have one question. I'm a little confused about the word easement. It's been used several times, and again, I'm confused. In one of the initial presentations, either by you or SCA, there was to be a schoolyard with an easement into your side of the property, so their kids could be outside in an outdoor facility. You've used the word easement, but that facility no longer exists. What's the easement that you're talking about?
So there were several easements as part of the the agreement with the SEA. One of which is a permanent perpetual easement over the 2,500 square foot portion of our parcel to be used by the SEA for a play area. Another easement relates to access to the courtyard to allow SEA to construct and maintain different portions of the school facing the courtyard. And then another easement relates to light and air over a portion of our parcel. And then, there are other easements related to lot line windows. So there's several different easements as part of the agreement, but I think to answer your question about the playground, the playground will still be in that courtyard area, and that's the 2,500 square foot easement that we provided to the FCA.
Your presentation didn't have, all you had was parking there. I saw nothing about playground area.
Yeah, I think what we can do is we can highlight, on a map what that area would look like or where it is.
Also, didn't you say, Payman, that it's 2 or 3 feet difference in the grade?
Correct. Yeah.
And
So
I was confused about, I asked about that today. How is that, and how is it safe? Being
yeah,
that-
it'll be, from our understanding, the SEA is going to construct the playground a few feet above grade and have a fence surrounding it, just to make it safe for the children.
Okay, you finished, Marty? All right, so Chuck?
I don't intend to get into the merits of the issues, but I do want to clarify 2 points. Historically, in the more than 30 years that I've been chair of this committee, we have had meetings with developers before and after and have reported to the board or to land use what those meetings are. It is the only way you can get information. And particularly during the course of this current year, the only way you can get information free of bickering. What we have tried to do indeed with this site, we had 2 committees send their representatives for private meetings, nobody else present, no land use person present, for those people to actively meet with the developer and report. It happened on this site. It's happened a dozen times, if not 100. I commend both Bob and Laura for doing it. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. David?
Yes, thank you. I just want a little clarification, Payman. This zoning lot is 77,000 square feet. It's divided into 2 tax lots, number 150, which is essentially yours, of 55,000 square feet, and then the SCA space, which is 22,000 square feet.
Correct.
Your calculation for basing your FAR is based on the whole 77,000 square feet, but you will be paying taxes on 55,000 square feet, correct?
Sorry, I don't think I follow. What was the last portion of this?
That you are going to be, that you're building on the basis of zoning for the whole block, which is 77,000 square feet. But given that the property has been divided into 2 tax lots, you will be paying taxes on lot 150, which is comprised of 55,000 square feet. And therefore your taxes will be based on 55,000 square feet, not on 77,000 square feet.
I
Correct?
believe the way that the assessments are calculated will be based on, total improvements on the site, like the total development or total residential square footage. I believe that's how the taxes are calculated.
Land
So-
is the smallest portion of your tax bill.
Okay, David?
Yeah,
Okay.
thank you.
Laura, I see a hand from Dan. I know
Yeah,
we
that's
don't
fine. Go
ordinarily.
ahead, Dan.
Okay.
Thank you, Laura and Bob. Payman, how are you? I guess my first question for everyone is whether or not, Payman in this presentation will be coming back to land use next month.
No, I think the best thing that we decided makes sense is we're going to put this in writing. Comments or, like questions that we believe the committee has and give answers to them. What makes sense moving forward, if there are any follow-up or things that are left unsaid is for the committee to collect those questions, gather them in one spot. And I think, Bob will work with Luke to do so, and then we'll respond to those questions.
I understand that that's what you do. I will say, I remember hearing at the last land use meeting that we did want to invite you to another land use committee meeting, which does have obviously different people, including the public, having, the ability to ask questions. However you guys proceed, though, obviously, that's up to you guys. My substantive question on some of the issues that have come up. After last Thursday, I did go on to Acris. I did search some of the documents that were there. I did see the Zelda you're referencing. So that, there's a lot of things kind of going back and forth. If I can just kind of be clear, when the Archdiocese sold the property, they split into two separate the two tax lots went to two different parties, each with different ownership, right? SCA got 22K square feet of the lot, and you guys got 55K of the lot for ownership purposes.
Roughly, yeah.
Roughly, yeah, roughly. I'm just using kind of the numbers David had. So you guys own 55K, SCA owns 22K. In addition to the Zelda, I noticed an Acris, and the Zelda incorporates the easement, which, Sylvia and education, I think had spoken about beforehand, that 2,500 square foot area next to the parking area in your lot. But I also found a different document, which was the declaration. And I think that might be what was raised as the zoning lot merger, but it's really a declaration. And it's my understanding that that declaration is a separate document signed by both parties, after you guys, or I should say it was on the same day of closing, I guess, because it was dated the same day. And it's that declaration which allows Tishman to use both of the different tax lots, which is owned by two different parties, to use the entire square footage from both tax lots. Is that correct? It's a declaration that does that?
No, so the Zelda that I was referencing before, states how much of the residential versus community facility FAR will be apportioned between the two sites.
Understood, but there's a declaration signed on the same day. Do you know the document that I'm referencing?
I don't, but if you want to send it to
Absolutely.
to
So there's a
Luke or Bob,
it's a
and then
declaration
we'll
of,
take a look at it.
Yep. There's a declaration of zoning lot restrictions, and it's dated August 16th, 2022, where you guys declare that the tracts of land comprising the property are to be treated as one zoning lot, which I think is where we're talking about here. And I believe that's the document. I'll certainly send it on to you guys, forward it to Bob or to your email, whichever you prefer. And it's that document, it's that agreement between the two parties that allow you guys, between that and the other, which is a separate agreement that most neighbors don't sign, which allows you to use the max square footage from both lots. Is that correct?
Again, what is the maximum square footage? Because the
Oh, I'm
maximum square
sorry.
foot.
Oh, I apologize. I'll say that again so that way it's a clearer question. Most neighbors, if I own just a 55K thousand square lot, I would be able to develop based upon that 55,000 square feet. However, by entering into this separate agreement with my neighbor who owns 22,000 next to me, then I could use that in the 77,000 square feet for zoning purposes to get a bigger building, so to speak. Right,
No,
whether
that's-
it's through the Zelda
no,
or
that's-
the other.
No, that's not accurate in terms of what we're doing here. So
Sure, if you could,
as I had mentioned before, this is all one zoning lot, right? That the SEA and Tishman Speyer occupy with our proposed developments. They were split into two separate tax lots. And
excellent. So if we could just stop there for a
Dan,
moment.
could
When
I-
they were split, oh no, if we could just, because I think it would be clear if when you guys split it there, at the two separate tax lots, and the ownership divided at that point amongst those two tax lots, right?
correct.
So you own one lot, they own one lot.
Yes, tax lots.
Okay. Tax lots, well, ownership, they own it. And when you own a tax lot, you have all of the rights to it, the whole bundle of rights that you get with it, right? And then
Well,
there was a
not-
separate agreement which was made.
No, that's why you need a Zelda to determine how ownership will work between the two different parties. I understand it's not a common agreement. It's quite common, in real estate, but it's not a common agreement that occurs between, say, like condo owners, for example. But that's the nature of the development that we have here.
And the nature of
Again,
that
we'll put this all in
development.
writing so that it's very clear. I understand a lot of this is complicated and very technical. And we had our land use council draft this and we'll share it with the committee.
Understood. Thank you for your time.
Thanks, Dan.
Am I correct, Payman? What I came away with today was that Tishman, there is no way for you to develop or use development rights, air rights, to do any changes in what you're showing us today.
Meaning going above what we had showed you, correct? Right,
right,
yeah, we
right.
can't do more, right?
No, because what was raised at the last land use meeting was people hear air rights, development rights. It's a concern, but I walked away today that you said that is not what could happen.
Yeah, there's no like swapping of air rights or development rights. It's just, in the traditional sense of what, you read in the press between like these, when a property owner acquires development rights from like multiple different parcels on the same block to create these superstructures, right? That's not what we're doing here. The zoning lot allows for a certain amount of development rights. It is still one zoning lot. There will be two separate tax lots. The Zelda was drafted in a way so that we come to terms in agreement of ownership between the two different parties.
Thank you. I see Rosemary's hand is up.
I could go on and on, but one final question.
Just
Everything
civilly,
that-
just civilly.
I'm sorry, Laura, I didn't hear that.
Please keep it civil. It was not civil before.
Oh, okay. Oh,
you.
thank you for your finger wagging. Good. It is, everything that has been said tonight belongs at a land use committee meeting. So my question is to you as chair of the board, are you asking Tishman Speyer to come to the next land use committee meeting to describe all of these issues? And principally, it would make me very happy to describe why I'm wrong.
Okay, I did ask the team today to come back to the land use committee, and they said that they would come back in the fall because they are working on completing what their plans are. And
Is that all?
there was a number of questions. You asked certain questions about the space, the size of the studios. You had asked a number of questions. That was only a week ago. They are going to come back in the fall. At this juncture, that is what was discussed today.
Okay, so just so I understand, you asked them to come back. They're not going to come back next month. They're going to come in the fall. Is that clear?
That is
Yes?
clear, and that's
acceptable.
And
Okay.
well, you know what is very important is that they're here tonight to answer all questions. We are an important body. This is the executive committee, and they are putting everything in writing. And I think that that is extremely significant. And this is an as of right project. And they had much more to show us on March 23rd than they had in September. And they will have much more to show us in the fall. And if we could talk and if we could get them to come sooner, we will. But you asked a question and I have answered it.
And I just a final statement. This is the executive committee. There are 13 people here out of 39 or whatever we are now. And it lacks the community. We are about the community. I'm going to stop.
Well, you know what?
Needs to be in front of the community. Thank you. I'm done.
Well,
It-
we do have
I'm done.
a recording. I'm glad you're done. And let me just say that there was an air of hysteria at the April land use meeting. An air of hysteria that had all of us, Luke, myself, Bob Bender, all of us, searching for a strategy. We're going to go to Juton. We're going to ask questions. We're going to go to city planning. We're going to go to Tishman. We're going to go to SCA. Not at a land use meeting that's not until May. No, we're going to do this today so that we can give something, however unacceptable to some people. We have made 24/7 effort to try to get some information. They'd assembled their zoning team, their team. We asked as best we could. And I was delighted when Payman said that he would come, because I felt this is appropriate not to wait until full board. At what point in full board could we do this next week? At what point? We'd have to wait until a May land use meeting? You're going to have all kinds of things and questions. They listened to the recording because I said, I cannot adequately describe all the questions and issues that came up about implications, et cetera, et cetera. They listened. They're an as-of-right project. You don't have the leverage that somehow we think we have. We do not. So I am delighted that Payman is here. Everything moves us a little bit closer to finding out more information. And, this is all critical. I work 24/7 for this board.
God.
Don't you dare.
No.
Thank you.
Laura,
And so
Laura, may
time
I?
is of the essence. I'm done now myself.
Laura, I just want to add one thing
Yes.
before we move on, because we have Chuck here and we have a land use resolution to deal with. But just to repeat something that was said earlier, Tishman is willing to answer questions from board members, all board members. So, but we don't want them bombarded with a whole bunch of individual questions. If you have questions, please send them to the board office. We'll collect them. We'll try to batch them together and send them on to Tishman so that they can respond. And they're open to doing that starting tomorrow. So even though they're not going to be back before us for a period of time, if you have questions, which I'm sure some board members do, and we'll bring this up at the board meeting as well, there is a mechanism to ask those questions and get a response in the meantime until we have another a meeting with Tishman at a land use or any other committee. But I think I know we have a lengthy land use resolution and we should move on to it.
Fine. Thank you, Bob. Thank you. Let's put it up on the screen.
Okay, so sorry, Bob, Laura. I'm assuming we're done with this and I
Yes.
should jump. Okay, all right. Thank you, everyone. Have a great night.
Thank you, Payman.
Thank you, Luke. Oh, and thank you, Payman.
Okay, this is the amended version. So Chuck, you're on.
All right. I have presented maybe 3 times, maybe 4, various versions of a affordable housing resolution. Let me repeat. There has long been a claim, which is in my view, or should be in my view, wholly without basis, that we are opposed to affordable housing. First of all, affordable housing, as it currently is defined, can be any damn thing going up to people who make $150,000 a year. They live in affordable housing. It's an undefined term in any proper sense. Secondly, it is something that we desperately have a right to and a need for in this community, because people in this community and beyond it need housing and need shelter, need proper shelter. Now, the resolution, what I have done is the following. I presented this current version at the last meeting and asked for comments. Before it was even presented, I had received comments from various board members that were incorporated in it. What has now been done is to incorporate all of the comments that I received, albeit one of them was in slightly different form than the language proposed, and that's Dan Patternak's proposal for resolution number 1. And I'll explain why I chose not to use, and I'd made that decision, not to use his language. And there were 2 additions. Rosemary made an extremely valuable proposal, in my view, and that was the suggestion we have and have had for years affordable housing in the form of co-ops. We have and have had for years very substantial amounts of affordable housing, albeit not for those at the bottom end of the ladder in terms of extremely low income, in the form of Mitchell Llama. But we do need housing for those in the middle income groups, and that's generally recognized. And so I have added a paragraph in here following that suggestion, requesting that HPD take a good hard look at that and see what can be done to bring those items back. Having said that, the resolution before you is one that contains precisely what I heard, both on hearing this and listening to the tapes on it and talking to others, of the suggestions that were made at the meeting. Now, I do have a problem, and let me explain the problem to you. It is very easy to take any document and state your own views of it and criticize and the like. Comment, criticism is all fine. But when it becomes an issue of carping, then I get very concerned. So let me then deal with the specific. The one change I made was in Dan's resolution. The suggestion was made by him. I don't think I have the last. Let me look at the. Can you put that on the screen? I don't think I have the last version here.
It should be on the screen right now, is it not?
No, the final version.
I want the resolution, please.
Oh,
Yeah, it says draft 4.7 is the final version.
That's the
Yeah.
one. That's the
Okay.
one I want.
No, this one at the
That's
top.
the older one.
329, keep going.
This says draft 329, draft 4.7.
Oh, no, 4.7.
This says
Oh.
4.7 here.
Okay. Yeah, I can't see it well on the screen.
That's 329. But in any event,
No, I think,
have-
Chuck,
you
I
have
think
the-
that is the 4.7, but you're seeing all the redlining.
you're using the red line.
But is there something else? Because there was, in
No,
addition to
this-
the red line, there was a
There was
simple.
a clean
Ah,
version of
Yes,
this,
Right.
keep going, keep
There is a
going,
clean
not a-
version.
but
keep
that's all
going,
right.
keep going, keep going.
I wanted to show you
It's,
what it was I had done by way of correction.
here.
Okay, this was the
This-
clean version.
That's
and
it,
it said
yep.
4.7
Here we
at the
go,
top.
here we go.
Okay,
The change I made from Dan's version is the second sentence. The Department of Housing Preservation and Development, HPD, in conjunction with the Department of City Planning, DCP, should be charged with compiling and making publicly available. So far, it's the same thing. On an annual basis, also the same. The average median income in. So far, it's the same as that Dan's, but here's where it changes. In the respective community board districts in the city and/or in each borough. I left it up to them to choose one or another. He wanted all 3. The third one was postal districts, and that was not likely to happen. They have a citywide one, which is attached as Appendix B. So the bottom line is this reads, choose either the community board or the borough board. And if you absolutely insist, do both of those. But that was the only change in his proposal.
I didn't get that. Could you try again?
I think that was the equipment machine.
Yeah.
So that's the only change. The new language, just so we understand it. Luke, can you continue scrolling down, please? Hold on. Here, there was a question raised as to family size. And so what I did was change the emphasis a little. HPD in its assessment of affordable housing should be required to give greater weight, not setting any percentages, to the number of family-sized apartments in the proposed building, rather than to or even materially diminishing the number of contemplated single-room studios, smaller size. The purpose was so that they could, in addition to giving due regard to the community, they would favor, wherever possible, family-size apartments. All right. Rosemary's wise proposal, which is the next one. HPD shall be charged with examining and publicly reporting at an early date upon the feasibility and terms under which there can be incorporated under an affordable housing program, the cooperative ownership concepts utilized, for example, in the amalgamated housing and Mitchell-Lama developments currently in Community Board 8, Bronx County. Hopefully they will do that. That'll give that. For example, the amalgamated, of course, is precisely, or at least one of the units there is precisely the kind of affordable housing that a lot of people need. The remainder is one basic change. And that is, if you look at the very next line of the very next item, the annual budget appropriation for HPD shall provide that HPD shall establish. There were a number of people who had a problem with creating a separate office in the office of the mayor to do this. And the alternative was to put it back into HPD. And you will see that in this paragraph and in the next paragraph. So I have tried to incorporate the comments that were made, and I tried to highlight for you the changes that have been made. If you look at the last thing that you can see on your screen now, again, it's HPD in conjunction with the Commissioner of Investigation shall, or to the extent the commission is required, shall inquire into and publicly report annually on the number, location, ownership of, and reasons for vacant but legally habitable apartments. That this is that issue of all the vacant apartments, and Housing Authority is included in the fifth line. And there you are. And I move the resolution. Now, let me just make one point to you. If it were up to me, I would have gone far broader than that. I think if housing is to be built, we need to reconstruct the housing agencies. We have, in my view, several of them that are either subfunctional or dysfunctional. To illustrate, we ought to combine all the code enforcement agencies in one. When I was building commissioner, I could use housing inspectors who were under my jurisdiction. That is why it was called the Department of Housing and Buildings. I could use housing inspectors to do certain types of inspections and thereby relieve the building inspectors for the more construction-oriented ones. You need to start taking a good hard look at it. You also need to give it, the housing area, a priority. It doesn't have that in government now. It doesn't have the kind of status and stature that you need to have to build more housing. There are many additional programs that could be developed for housing what we need to do is to do this. So for example, let me tell you about that garage I talked to you about the other day. The sanitation garage, now vacant, directly opposite St. Barnabas Hospital on 3rd Avenue. If that were demolished and a garage were located of small variety on the ground floor, or maybe even the 2nd floor if necessary, you could still put housing above it, provided you made appropriate arrangements for environmental protection and the like. That's the kind of thing we need to do. We need to put our hats on and start developing housing. We're not doing that, in my view, not to the extent that is required and is appropriate. And I thank you. Oh.
Bob. I've got a question for Chuck.
Anyone who's doing this, Laura?
I'm sorry. Yes, I'm sorry. Deb, go right ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Laura. Chuck, I just had a question. I know you've been working on this document for a while. It doesn't seem like it has a vote from the land use committee. In terms of process, why is that, and why not just go back to land use and get the vote, which I'm sure you would get, and then bring it to the board?
Let me explain that to you, if I may.
Yeah.
At the land use committee meeting, the request was made not to take a vote, to redo it, then recirculate it in the board, and then bring it back in May. That means at the June meeting would be the earliest time this board could vote on it. By then, the city will have come out with its proposal, and this will be an ahem footnote. That's all. We've been doing this for a long time. And it's just about time. Kill it if people want to kill it. But if they do, they demonstrate another point. What I am trying to do is to get this forward so that people know there's not a hell of a lot of controversy substantively, in my view. I think it ought to be written this way. I think it ought to be written that way. So what I tried doing, even was saying to people, as I did to Dan, you go write it. And it just didn't come out in the appropriate manner.
Thank you.
Lee.
Just an FYI, Chuck, there are low-income cooperatives. They're called HDFCs, and they've been around since the early 1970s. I used to live in one in the South Bronx.
The problem is, Lee, those are all pre-existing. They're not doing them now.
Well, there is no city-owned housing. Maybe what you really need to do is HDFC 0.2.
That's my point.
But no, that's not your point. What you are actually telling, and we had this discussion at the land use committee, which is, I think, one of the reasons it was tabled, is you are in essence in this, I don't know what to call it. It's a resolution that I've never seen so long and so complicated, telling the city of New York, the state legislature, what defines affordable housing and who should define it. And I think that's the height of hubris on the part of CB8 to do that. And I said that at the land use committee. And I think what we need to do is, if we want Community Board 8 in the Bronx, a definition of affordable housing, we should do it geared to us and not to every other community board in the city of New York, and you even go to the state. And that's just my opinion. And I also agree that with Deb's concern, we tabled it. There was a long discussion at land use.
There was no motion to table.
If there was.
No, sir.
I mean, I'm sorry, I was there. Camila was there. Dan was there. Maybe we heard something different than what you heard, but it was tabled. I mean, Laura was even there. So, but in any case, that's my 2 cents.
He withdrew his motion.
He withdrew the motion.
He withdrew, that's all, which as the maker of the motion, he could withdraw his motion. And the point was made that any member of the board could offer up a motion at the full board. Needs a second, and there's a process for this. People feel all different ways. They'll vote or they won't vote for it, but the process is okay.
Lee, let me answer your substantive point. if you think that the city of New York is going to issue a definition of affordable housing or institute a program under which city property will be used priority basis for housing, only in community board number 8. And only for community board number 8 are we going to have all of these things. You're not living in the real world.
I am living in the real world. I think you'd like to live in a world where you can control the entire city of New York and the state.
I do
you're
not.
wrong. Right now, you and I got an email from Luke talking about meetings that are going to be held on Affordable Housing 101. And it's being co-sponsored by the City of New York, HPD. So they are moving forward. And they've been doing
Moving forward
affordable
in a
housing
very
for a
different
long
direction.
time.
They are moving forward in a very different direction.
No.
A direction I do know about.
I
for
really
service
don't
on
want to
another
discuss
board.
this. This meeting has gone on long enough. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Lee. Camelia, last,
Yeah, Laura, just wanted to, thank Chuck because I do appreciate his conviction. And he said, yeah, okay, I don't have support in land use. I will push it. He's pushing it. Okay. But also I want to say, Laura, please you heard the objection the question from Deb as well as from Miss from Lee. I'm backing up everything Lee said as far as substantive kind of disagreements on approach. And please be clear in the full board meeting where Mr. Morler has full right to push this forward, that this is not a resolution that was endorsed or voted on for by the land use. Thank you so much, sir. Also, sir, with all due respect, again, you can be mad at me and address me very angrily, land use all you want. I will always have nothing but respect for you, but I will also reserve the right to raise my hand and ask the questions that I do. So thank you.
I have no problem with what you have said. I will say it myself. My point in all of this is there are people who focus on minutia. There are people who focus on substance. I prefer to focus on substance. Thank you.
okay, seeing no further hands, a follow-up on outstanding issues. Any hands? Is there a motion to adjourn?
Laura, just real quickly.
David, your hand is up now. Yes.
Yeah, sorry. You were too quick. Last meeting, I said I would report on something new that had just come up, and that's the open data tool that the city is providing. And there was a session, and I could go on for hours on it. There was a session the city held about for several days, an open data week. And there are lots and lots and lots of tools that are available to members of the community board, but also of the community to investigate lots and lots of data about the city. And if anybody has any particular questions, I'll be glad to help direct you, but it's really a very interesting tool for looking at contracts and statistics, et cetera, et cetera. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Sylvia.
Yes, I just want to ask Bob, as far as the district managers' interviews that are going to be held on the 7th and 8th day of Passover. There are others besides myself that, as far as transparency, we're being shut out. And normally we take into consideration most holidays. And I'm wondering why this time it was just discounted.
Well, thanks for the question, Sylvia. It wasn't discounted at all. What we're doing with these interviews is they are going to be conducted in executive session. They're going to be conducted only by the 3 members of the district manager search committee and by the board chair. So there will be no participation from board members or from the general public. And that's why in choosing those dates, the members of the district manager search committee wanted to make sure they were comfortable with the dates, and we also wanted to make sure that the candidates we would be interviewing are comfortable with the dates. So the only part of the meeting that's going to be open is the beginning of the meeting, when we convene the meeting, take attendance, and then present a resolution to go into executive session. The public participation in this meeting, Sylvia, would last about 2 minutes. We will give a full report after we have these meetings, but that's why they happen on that date.
Sylvia, I'll also add, if that's all right, Bob, that before that agenda went out, it was sent to Marty. Marty looked at it, discussed it, and said it could go out.
Possibly because he wasn't going to be in town. I see he's shaking his head.
Well,
My shake has nothing to do with the fact that I'm out of town. The fact is, it's a meeting, an executive session. I thought that that Bob was properly notifying under the open meetings law that a meeting would take place. It's an in-person meeting. Anyone who wants to show up for an in-person meeting to watch them take attendance and vote to go in executive session, I imagine is free to do so. The only issue I am concerned about, well, there are two issues. Issue number one is that there will be a candidate waiting to go in, and the objective was to keep their rights of privacy. I don't know any of the people they're interviewing, but if I came to the meeting and saw someone I knew, that could be a violation, again, of their right of privacy. And two is the question of, this is a crazy month, as was September. Very few available dates. If we focused entirely on the holidays, and many committees, including mine, either gave up dates or changed dates because the holidays intervened. The question here is, who is going to be attending? The members of the committee is one, and the applicants is number two. Nobody else, while technically they're invited to attend to watch the attendance, in the past, board members have not come to such meetings. And I think would be advised, even though they could, that they shouldn't. So no one who potentially might be offended by a meeting taking place when they're not present, I don't think that group generally exists. In my case, it certainly doesn't exist because I have no intention of attending.
we did have one meeting attended. Zero public attended the first meeting of the search committee. And that was advertised and that was on Zoom. So let's hope, let's all be on the same team, hoping that we're in the third month without a district manager. It's been very, very hectic. Everybody's working very hard, and we hope to fill that as soon as possible. So, Rosemary, your hand is up.
Yes, it's on the same topic that Sylvia just raised. And just to do a history, I can't help but think, facing this particular issue, I think back years ago, when I remember there was a committee with just a few members, and it fell on a holiday. And Nicole Stent, you remember her, said, no, you can't hold it. And I remember saying, but there's nobody Jewish on the committee. And I remember her saying point blank to me, it has nothing to do with the members of the committee. We, the community board, does not hold meetings on this religious holiday. We do not, because there's a community. We don't know who would show up. So that is why we don't do it. I want to tell you, Nicole Stent has been gone for how long? 12 years, 10 years. I will never forget what she said to me. I will say the same thing to you. You should not hold this meeting on a religious holiday. That's it. It doesn't matter who shows up. It doesn't matter the potential who will show up. That is not what we do as a community board. Thank you.
Deb
Thank you,
Travis.
Rosemary.
Deb?
Deb, you're muted.
Sorry, unmuting myself. I just had a question about meeting in person versus meeting on Zoom. Has there been any update of whether we should expect that we'll be having to meet in person in end of April or May?
April 22nd, I expect to get a notice from the city whether it's been extended. They only go month by month. And that's when we'll hear. No predictions.
No predictions. Okay, then. I was hoping for a prediction. All right, thank you.
Okay, seeing no further hands, is there a motion to adjourn?
I will
Motion.
adjourn. Yep.
Second.
Thank you. So everybody have a good night. Thank you. Very good discussion. Thank you.
Good night.